Oh, hello there. YouTube game custom character creation preset number 5. Back at it again with another banger for your mouth.
So how do we know when a stance in a culture war is like officially stupid? Like, I mean, a lot of them are already stupid, but I mean, to the point that there's no reason to really keep pushing this narrative. Well, I think one way to really go about this is what I would call the preteen test. So you see, I was discussing The Last of Us 2 with my 11-year-old, and I was talking about a lot of the discourse around the second game, and they turned to me and they asked,
"Hey, Dad, why are these weird-looking men on YouTube so upset about a girl with muscles?"
now, as a parent, you prepare yourself for a lot of weird conversations, even the fictional one that I just described. In trying to do so while maintaining a straight and serious face, I mean, that is really how you know you are on the right side of a quote-unquote culture war. I mean, like, picture being angry at your daughter because they want to be a female space marine, or getting angry at your son because they're more excited about Silk Song coming out than the next God of War. Is projecting your narrow vision of true gaming really worth it in regards to missing out on potential experiences that you could be having with your own spawn? Insert spawn camping joke here. But here is the darkest irony about this whole anti-woke crusade. It's the fact that, like, the people that are spearheading this whole thing, they're probably not going to get the chance to have children to share these experiences with anyways. Take from that what you want. If you're really carrying this much resentment about hobbies becoming more inclusive, then I don't think you need to be worrying about having kids in the future anyways. Don't at me. That's a pretty old reference, but you know what? Go ahead and leave your angry comments down below. And for like the 3 or 4 anti-woke creators who do have kids, I mean, how is that working out for you? Are you having deep and meaningful conversations with your kids in between making your rage bait thumbnails in regards to the slightest change in the newest Star Wars series? Let's be honest here, how many times have you yelled at your kids because they expressed interest in a game that you deem too woke? And the funny part is, no matter how you answer, you still lose. This both is and isn't about games. I mean, it never was and it always will be. This is more specifically about a subset of men who have built their whole identity around being gamers, and now for some reason they are feeling threatened and scared of becoming irrelevant in a space that is becoming more diverse and more inclusive. Imagine feeling scared because a whole medium of entertainment is growing beyond your comfort zone, and a very narrow one at that. What these weirdos do not understand is that all this expansion was inevitable the second that the generation of nerds started having their own kids. The second that we could start sharing our own tabletops, our own spaces, our own controllers, when you authentically share your enthusiasm and passion for your interests and your hobbies, whether it be comics, gaming, tabletop, what have you, regardless of their gender, they start to fall in love with these worlds and they fall in love with these hobbies as well. And not only that, they bring their own perspective, their own desires, and their own sense of creativity to all of these as well. Why would you want to stifle that? So yeah, I just felt like ranting about the current ecosystem of anti-woke crusaders on YouTube, because you know what? It is really annoying, and to be quite frank, it pisses me enough that I wanted to make a video about it. So be upset if you're upset.
Step on it, Daddy!
You know which creators I'm talking about. You know, the ones that look like medieval peasants that should be farming turnips for my lord. Or that guy who looks like your former Best Buy manager who got written up because he was pushing crypto a little bit too hard in the break room.
I'm talking about specific people, but I guess we'll see if a hit dog hollers.
To me, watching these know-nothing casuals is a lot like reading a restaurant review from somebody who only read the menu, and they happen to also be racist against the country of origin for that restaurant as well. It really sucks, but these folks have really mastered a very specific form of digital alchemy. They're taking manufactured outrage and they're turning it into engagement metrics. As somebody who is a tiny tuber, you know, I'm trying to get to 2,500. That's how small I am. That's how small my YouTube channel is. But on the whole, honestly, it is pretty impressive and at the same time, like, pretty depressing. It's impressive in the same way that somebody turning a 5-minute game preview into a 1-hour video about forced diversity and DEI is impressive. I will be honest, I'm sure grasping for straws would be a lot easier for these guys if their skin wasn't so paper thin. Take the most recent gaming discourse, for example. We have people melting down because in the new Witcher game, Ciri is older. And it's just a preview cinematic as well. It's not even the final form. These same people are also upset because Naughty Dog's new IP features a woman with dark skin and a bald head as a protagonist. Because, you know, even in the far-flung futures of deep space and a world with spaceships and AI, apparently melanin is just still that hard to comprehend. Like, these are the same people who think that the famous bathtub scene from Witcher 3 was about hygiene than it was vulnerability. They think that these stories are about how everyone hates the Witcher who is really, really cool and gets laid all the time, as opposed to actually being a story about xenophobia and prejudice. And their weird relationship with lore accuracy would be really fascinating if it wasn't so funny and sad. They'll accept demon baby magic without batting an eye, but a woman that is aging realistically or a woman wearing realistic armor, I mean, hold on, that is just a step too far. They have gone woke. Like, seriously, these chuds cry about immersion where the closest medieval combat that they have ever had is carrying a gamer chair up one flight of stairs. It's a content strategy that operates a lot like Elon Musk's infamous mage samurai build. It's massively overinvested while at the same time just fundamentally misunderstanding the basics. And at the same time, it's still claiming victory while fat rolling and face planting through every single boss fight. Every week we get a new gaming apocalypse. Baldur's Gate is like way too horny. The Last of Us is too muscular. And apparently having character customization options in Starfield is literally the fall of Western civilization. I'm not gonna lie, I wish. The thing about all this anti-woke outrage is that it isn't even good outrage. It's not like they're even trying anymore. Remember when actual gaming controversies were things like Jack Thompson going on his anti-gaming crusade, parents talking about how Mortal Kombat was going to be turning children into ice ball shucking and shuriken wielding kids? I mean, first off, that'd be awesome. Well, not, you know what I mean. We went from discussing whether or not video games could be considered real art to just hour-long videos of men talking about how modern gaming women are just way too unattractive when they themselves look like that they were just created from the random button in Oblivion's NPC maker. I said what I said. For example, imagine if the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out in 2025. Like, picture the absolute meltdown that we would see about Eowyn killing the Witch King of Angmar. What's up, gamers? YouTube game Black Myth Woke is wrong here. Back at it again with another exposing on the woke mobs. I know the scenery's a little bit different, but my mom said I could use her office. It has better acoustics. I can't be too loud. So have you guys seen this whole Lord of the Rings movie? The first 2 movies were cool, you know, a bunch of badass fight scenes and stuff like that. But then for the last one, they decided to go woke. They had the woman killing the Witch King. Like, in what world is that even possible? Like, women can't move around in armor like that. She looked like a man. And then they did this whole feminist rant about, oh, I am now a man. And then the Witch King allows her to kill her. So I went ahead and got the original animated version, the one that's true to Tolkien's vision. And let's play it for you now to show you how the scene really goes.
No living man may hinder me.
But no living man am I. You look upon a woman. Eowyn am I.
So as I said at the beginning of this video, Tolkien was always woke, and he is just a socialist communist that if he knew that war was bad, why didn't he tell us about Hitler? Why didn't he stop World War II or 9/11? Alright, that's it again. Thank you, and remember, like and subscribe, share, and donate to my GoFundMe, because my health insurance got denied, and it is all Joe Biden's fault.
We would get 3-hour video essays about how woke culture ruined Tolkien's vision. Oh wait, we already do. And also, I mean, let's be honest, the whole story is about how war is bad. He wrote it as a response to World War I. Lord of the Rings is woke. Here's the most insidious part about this whole pipeline. It's not just about the outrage, it's also about the monetization. These creators have perfected a routine that's more reliable than re-releasing Skyrim for the 100th time. And it's also as dated as that joke. It's actually just quite simple. Find anything that would be considered progressive change, declare it woke, and spend all your time on YouTube and Twitter monetizing the ensuing outrage and declaring how your whole childhood is ruined. Because apparently your childhood just sucked that much. Then find the next thing from your childhood that you can complain about. Rinse, repeat, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. So, for example, on the tabletop RPG side of things, let's really briefly talk about D&D and its newest version went from D&D 5e to 1D&D. Now, are there legitimate discussions to be had about class changes to races now being changed to like species or something like that? Yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely discussions to be had about all of that. But here's the thing. These outrage merchants aren't interested in the same type of nuanced discussion. They are too busy with the thumbnails, with the red arrows, talking about how D&D is dying because woke. And yes, there's a lot of things that can be discussed about why D&D isn't as popular as it was during lockdown, but that kind of reasonable thought process doesn't really resonate with viewers as much as it does with Critical Role dips in views because girl with blue hair, fresh cut grass, smokes weed live on air. But also don't forget, like, these posers, they don't know how difficult it is just to even schedule a once a month session. They don't know that. They not like us. And the way that they manipulate data is just so consistent. It always breaks down one of 3 ways. If a game sells well that they said is gonna bomb, well, you know, the stupid woke devs got lucky, or they paid off the dumb mainstream reviewers who can't even finish a tutorial. If a game underperforms, go woke, go broke. And if a game meets expectations and has, for the most part, general mainstream appeal, then it either is one of 2 things. Gaming is back, baby! Or it could have sold better if it wasn't as political, it wasn't as woke, or dur. Like, I did a video about Helldivers 2 and how a lot of these people completely missed the point, but I'm gonna reiterate once again. Metal Gear Solid is political. Final Fantasy VII is political. BioShock 1 is political. Nuclear armament, eco-terrorism, objectivism. Get over it. Like, I couldn't imagine playing through Portal and coming out of it with something along the lines of, you know what, I think the real villains wasn't GLaDOS or Aperture Science, it was unions. People that wanted to unionize. Alright, so here's where I'm gonna pivot and kind of focus on community worth building right now, because, you know, I've been kind of going pretty hard for a minute there. Because while these content creators are making their 40th video about how Stellar Blade bowed to the woke mafia, let's go ahead and talk about what's actually going on in real gaming communities. For example, my 11-year-old who identifies as non-binary, they don't see Warhammer as this weirdo male space that needs to be dismantled brick by brick. They just see it as a normal-ass hobby. They can let their creativity shine, and we can have some crazy battles on a Saturday afternoon. On the flip side, my 9-year-old son and I, we recently gave the Warhammer adventure books a try. Basically 40k for 40 kids. The books aren't really that grimdark, but the thing is, I get to take the 41st millennium and I get to take that grim dark future and I get to turn it into story time. Like, how cool is that? And this is why I love being a nerdy ass gamer dad just so much. While some people are spending all their time and effort and energy trying to protect, gatekeep a culture, they're missing out on the fact that the culture is progressing and evolving without them right underneath their noses. Because here's the thing about kids in gaming spaces, they don't see them as borders to protect or hills to die on. They just see them as playgrounds. And being able to watch your child have the same joy and expression and the moments of their brain clicking that you did when you were their age, I mean, that is everything. It reminds me why I fell in love with gaming in the first place. And I guess like one sad thing about it that these people also don't seem to get is that while they are sitting there defending their imaginary walls and their imaginary borders, I'm living the dream that they talk about potentially having one day. And just to go back to the beginning of the video, at this rate, the more that they rage, the more that they're probably never going to have that opportunity. I said what I said. We are officially multiple generations in where geek and nerd culture is considered normal. For better or for worse, this is really a golden age to be an arbiter of generational gaming. That is why I'm doing all of this. But I guess people peacefully enjoying things, that doesn't bring in a lot of clicks compared to woke mob destroys gaming again, DEI, sweet baby. Like, if you, with your own eyes, want to see the future of gaming culture, the best way to do it, watch a kid create their first RPG character. Watch the look in their eyes as they realize that the limitation is really their own imagination, especially when they're not holding the baggage of previous generations' weird fixations with hypermasculinity and hypersexualized femininity. I will once again reiterate how cool it is to watch my kids start their nerdy ass journeys of their nerdy ass lives. And in doing all of this, like, my kids aren't out there purposefully making political statements, unless it's your typical trope of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, because the rule of cool crimes is always going to be held in our house. No, like, my kids, your nieces, your nephews, your siblings, they're all just having fun, and that's all that matters. And who the hell are we to try to limit that because of our weird hangups? Because, like, here's the truth, and I mean, honestly, the bottom line of my video. If you don't love your passions enough to share them with everyone else, you don't love that thing. If you can't imagine sharing your passions with everyone, you don't really love or have passion towards that thing. You just love the feeling of keeping it to yourself and hoarding it to yourself. In my normal ass person opinion, these critiques aren't really coming from a place of genuine concern or game design or anything in terms of feedback for improvement. These videos are basically the digital equivalent of the guy at the party who just read Fight Club for the first time, and they're just sitting there talking to you about how nobody understands men anymore. Oh, men's masculinity is under attack. Oh, Tyler Durden was right. It's just Dunning-Kruger with the side of protein powder. So to wrap up, what I find hilarious about like this whole mindset and way of living, and you know what, I'll call it a lifestyle. It's not just the outrage itself, it's just how it perfectly illustrates and encapsulates like two completely different ways of experiencing media. One was built on manufactured anxiety and about protecting spaces that were never threatened in the first place. And the other is actually focused on sharing and enjoying these spaces and these stories with others. It's like watching two parallel universes unfold. One where every change is treated like a personal attack, and another where evolution is really just part of the fun. Like Pokemon. Guess which one is actually creating something worth preserving? We've all seen this story before. We're talking about communities that have built on rage that lasts longer than, a Steam survival early access game. They burn really bright for a while, and then they just end up consuming yourself because Let's be honest, you can only hate for so long and just burn that hard before it ends up just like hollowing you out. Or I guess you can only define yourself by what you hate for so long before you forget what it is that you even love in the first place. These creators aren't just angry about changes in content and changes in media. They're really angry and scared about being irrelevant and basically just being a relic of the past. Irrelevant. Thank you. To bring up Pokemon again, it's the same cycle that we see with every new generation. First, all the new designs are trash. Then later, after we get used to them a little bit, it's like, hey, there's actually a couple good ones in here. And then a couple years later, they're normal. No one really cares. And with nobody caring, and with the world not ending, maybe comes the silent realization that maybe this isn't that big of a deal. It's just video games. You would think that we would learn, but each new generation, people generation, not Pokemon generation. Each new generation learns how to monetize hate and monetize this whole thing. Because we are once again in essentially a golden age where nerdy content is considered normal. Amazon is out here working on Warhammer stuff. Warhammer is mainstream now, and people are upset about that. Like, what? Like, my generation, Gen X generation, we had to grow up defending our hobbies and defending their legitimacy and saying that they're actually worth something in regards to teaching us future values. And now we have people that are sitting here complaining, saying it's not good enough or that it was better. Like, what is wrong with you? Get out of here. You were never here in the first place. We went from defending our hobbies to sharing them with our kids. At the end of the day, we won that culture war. Why are you so upset? Or would it mean that acknowledging that victory would be the entire end of their business model? Who's to say? So to actually wrap up, all of you adult figures, all of you parental figures, all of you mentor figures, please keep doing what you're doing. And if you have the means or the ability to donate your time or to give your time to run a D&D campaign for kids or something like that, do so. Because you are helping the next generation of nerds feel less nerdy. Like watching your child defeat an Elden Ring or a Dark Souls boss on their own for the first time and seeing their reaction to that, like that's kismet. That is perfect. That is fate. That is everything that I feel is like worth it as a parent. And to think that there's people who want to keep that type of enjoyment away from other people, from younger people, like, go f*** yourself.